welcome to the Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Whitbeck, the Strategic Sales Queen. Today, I'm joined by our very special guest, Susan Honey. And today, Susan and I are going to be talking about Rise with Authenticity, the proven path to confidence and influence. I want you to think about this for a minute because losing confidence or struggling to lead authentically can quietly limit your impact as a leader. And rebuilding that connection between who you are and how you lead, it might feel out of reach. But today, Susan shares a proven path to rise with authenticity, strengthen your confidence, and lead with greater influence. And for those of you who have tuned in before and you love the show, please leave us a 5-star review. And for those of you who are just joining us, if you love what we're doing, please subscribe. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Susan. She is a strengths based leadership coach who helps women entrepreneurs and professionals turn their natural talents into strategy. She guides clients to clarify priorities, set healthy boundaries, and lead with authentic confidence for sustainable growth. A professional certified coach, PCC, and Gallup Clifton Strengths certified coach, Susan combines decades of leadership experience with deep expertise in positive psychology and communication. Susan, I am thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation because I think it's more important now than ever that we lead with authenticity. And let's sort of take a step back as to what first inspired you to start helping women leaders build confidence through authenticity.
That's a great question. For me, it's really my story. And I came up in an environment that was not female dominated, we'll put it that way. And I was kind of taught to lead in a way that really didn't reflect who I am from a strengths perspective. So the things that I'm naturally good at, I was sort of forced to think about things the way that everybody else thought about things rather than to consider what was in front of me in my own way. And being pushed to do that for as long as I was really affected my ability to lead effectively. And so through that experience, I decided that the best way for me to serve ultimately was to teach other people how to do what I really struggled with early on in my career.
Okay, that's brilliant. And I think that has so much resonance with so many women out there right now who are in that same situation because we didn't make the rules and we're just living by them and they don't fit our style or really how we work. So, with that in mind, what are some of the common challenges that you see when women try to lead or grow without really fully owning their strengths?
So the main thing I see is that they get stuck and they don't know how to move past whatever that stuck point is. It could feel like a roadblock or a challenge or pick your descriptor there. But this notion of stuckness is unique to each of us. So for me, it was knowing where we needed to go intuitively, knowing that this was the right path and not being able to convince anybody else that that's what we needed to do because there was a lack of trust and there was a lack of a good solid relationship and all the things that go with that. And once I started leaning into these things that I do naturally, so seeing 3 4 5 pathways to get to a solution, being able to brainstorm at a moment's notice, learning about all these things that I love, I realized that if I stayed true to that space, people actually could hear me. They didn't see it as this, what is she doing now kind of thing, right? And what why does she want us to do this? And the big problem that I had realistically speaking here was that I knew the answer, but I couldn't explain the answer. I couldn't say, yeah, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And so the next step of it for me was I had to surround myself with people who complemented what I do. So where I have this vision, I need people around me who can execute against the vision because that's not my forte.
Yeah.
So it's really that balancing act.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. That is true. I mean, I'm sort of an executor, but
Yeah. We balance each other out.
I know we do. So, let's sort of get back into this proven path because you talk about a proven path to confidence and influence. And so, what does that look like in practice?
So the first step is to understand who you are from a strengths perspective. I obviously use the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment to help with that. And in the first conversation I do with my clients, we literally deep dive on those top 10 talent themes. We want to understand really, really deeply what it means, how these talent themes show up, and so on and so forth. And there's a shadow side to that too. So I'll use an example from mine. I have command number 4, which means no surprise. I have a giant personality, and when I walk into a room, I take it over. And I had to learn how not to do that, how to leverage the talent that I have in a way that other people could accept and see. And it goes beyond that too. Once we understand what our talent themes, what our strengths are, and we understand where we have opportunities to take those talent themes to another level, we invest in them, then we start showing up more authentically over and over and over again. People get used to it. They understand that this is who we are. We understand that this is who we are. That's part of the problem, by the way. We often are like, but I'm not supposed to, or I wish I was kind of person, right? So for me, I could say I wish I had some executing talent themes in my top 10. I have one, and it happens to be achiever, which is the worldwide number one. And what that means is that I have trouble saying no, which means I never get anything done, which is the irony behind achiever. So anyway, the whole purpose here is for people to really deeply understand what their strengths are. So we want to claim those strengths as our own. So we name them first, then we claim them. And then the third part of this process is to aim those strengths in the direction we want to go. So let's say, for example, we have a small business owner who's struggling to hire the right people. We want to look at what this small business owner has from a talent profile perspective. We might even want to look at the other people in the business from a talent profile perspective to make sure that we have a nice diversity of talent. Okay. And then we're going to work together to figure out what roles need to be filled, what are the things that need to be deleted altogether instead of delegated, for example. We're going to look at all of those kinds of things, and we're going to put a plan together that leverages the strengths that already exist within the context to make those hiring decisions. We're going
Right.
to talk about the kinds of questions to ask to uncover what people do well without using the index, the assessment as a hiring tool, because that's kind of a no-no. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that because I also loved what you said about the shadow side in
Yeah.
the sense that, with every strength, there's a shadow. And just like with every shadow, there is a light. So, and it's just, I think understanding both sides of that
Hmm.
is really helpful because the same thing that desire to say yes, 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 and having to put those boundaries in place and recognize. I mean, I think that's a pretty common thing for women because the way that we're socialized, right?
Yeah.
But it's really important that we do it with intentionally and that we have the ability to exit stage left
Hmm.
with grace,
With grace. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really key thing is that we don't have to say yes to every opportunity. You don't have to say yes to every client. You don't have to say yes to every family member.
Hmm.
So, and then also how we ask for help, you know,
Ooh, yeah. That's a
I
tough
mean,
one for a lot of us, because
yeah,
I don't know about you, but I grew up in an environment where I was essentially taught that saying no was a sign of weakness or disrespect, and so I kind of sometimes asking for help instead of trying to do it myself is the harder path for me. And I've struggled with that over the years. And I think that's part of what helps me coach and guide people more effectively is this idea that I've been there and I know what it feels like. And I know what my own tendencies are. And I have accountability partners who will phone me or text me every now and again and say, have you said no today? Or what did you say yes to today? And what do you need to go back and say no to now? And one of the things that I really love helping clients with is this notion of being discerning about the things we take on. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. I work with high achieving people, right? So all these high achieving folks, especially the Gen Z population that we're starting to see in the workforce now, these high achieving young people really truly don't know how to discern between, yes, I need to do that, and oh, let me think about that. So it might be not a no, but a not now, and they don't know how to get there. And
Yeah.
so in the coaching work that I do, especially on the corporate side, that's a lot of the focus is how do we make these decisions that give us the space to do things to the best of our ability and feel good about it. Because when we're in the light side, I love how you described it that way. If we're on the light side of the talent, it should be something that we do with ease and flow. It should be
Yeah.
simple. There shouldn't be any effort to it. So on the shadow side, often there's effort, and that's the signal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love this analogy about the decision making too, because it's okay to not make an instant decision, to think about things, to mull it over, and to really sort of go through those pros and cons. And a lot of times, it's like, oh, you just have to make a decision and move on. Well, that's just not reality. And really giving yourself the space, so that, but not to get just then overthink it to death. I will overthink things, I will have to say. And it's just that at a certain point, you do have to make a decision. But if you go through like those pros and cons, and, you know, it sometimes there is no right or wrong decision. It's just like, well, that's just what feels right. It
Yeah.
feels right to me. This is the right decision for now. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we can't change our mind in the future.
Yeah. So the
So,
best tip that I ever got, and now that I pass along to my own clients regarding that overthinking thing, is to set a timer.
yeah,
And it could be a 5 minute timer, or it could be a 2 day
5 days.
timer, right?
Yeah.
It could be a month even, if it's something where there's not that danger of overthinking it, but it's more of there's a lot of research that needs to be done
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
It's
But
a big decision.
so set a timer or have an accountability partner help you make the decision and ask you the questions that you're not thinking of on your own.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, why is it so hard for leaders to stay authentic when pressure and expectations rise? I mean, I'm sort of really moving in a different direction, but when we get we get a whole bunch just sort of dumped on us, or we're in that pressure cooker situation.
mhm.
The expectations of doing this all, I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I was there this morning.
Uh-oh. So the short version of it is that we have a tendency to revert to default behaviors when we have uh, the things all piled on top, or we've said yes to too many things and we're faced with a mountain and no real clear sense of priority. Um, and sometimes those default behaviors don't show up as authentically who we are because we go into that shadow side.
Yeah.
So if I use my number 2 talent theme, which is ideation, as an example here, because this one's the one that gets me in trouble the most. When I have too much going on, the first thing I do is go into popcorn brain mode, and my brain says, "Ooh, I could try this," or "Ooh, I could try that," or "Ooh, shiny syndrome in a way," right? And it becomes this default behavior of avoidance of all
Yeah.
the things that I have going on. Now, it doesn't show up the same way in everybody, right? So, what shows up in me as avoidance or procrastination, the shadow for somebody else might be eating the frog syndrome, where they're plucking one thing out at a time and doing it, rather than taking the time to and I'm not knocking the eat that frog method, because I think it works great. That said, I think that the better way to approach these things is often to take 5 minutes to just look at the pile that's in front, and think about where you can lean in and where you need to ask for help, because that's an essential part of being authentic. If this is not something you're good at, the authentic response here should be to say, Lynn, I need help, or, other friend, I need help. I need somebody to help me prioritize. I need somebody to help me do. I need somebody to help me think, and whatever the thing is that needs to be done. And so it requires a great sense of self-awareness, and that's not something that we work to develop at a young age. It took me years to figure out who I am as a human being.
Yeah.
And even to this day, there are times when I revert to those default behaviors that are easy and comfortable for me, because I did them for so long.
Yeah.
you know
Well, and it also, I think that um, we also are constantly evolving and
hmm
changing and hopefully doing the personal development, professional development. But I fall into this thing. To this day, I loathe rework. I mean, I loathe it. And I literally had that happen this morning with a client, something that's been done for a month and now wants to change it, and it's just like, it was like, what?
Yeah, I just had a visceral reaction to that.
Yeah, I was just like, ow. And
I'm the same way.
it's that, in it's like, deep breath,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
respond right away. Take
yeah.
a
I mean,
moment,
those are
right?
great techniques, right? The idea of doing a couple of minutes of box breathing, or even just going outside and getting some fresh air, or whatever stepping away and stepping out of the fray looks like. Um, things not to do, things, and you can ask me how I know these things if you like, but things not to do: popping off with a quick email response, because it's generally not going to be how you want it to come across. We need to take time, and this is me in particular.
Yeah.
I know about myself that I need to sit with something before I respond, or it's going to be a snap, snarky response, and that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If I want people to come along with me and I want to convince them that what I have to offer is a good thing, a snap, snarky response does not convince them they can trust me. And
Yeah.
so I know myself really well. I have to sit with things, I have to let them percolate. I have to, and lots of my clients go through the same kind of process, where they'll have somebody upset their apple cart first thing
Yeah.
on a Monday morning, like you just described, and they just have to walk past it for the moment and
Yeah.
ignore it before they
Yeah.
can do anything about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And also then will look at, like, that's one of the things about, sometimes when you look at something and you've had it and then you realize, well, wait, I'd really like it to be this instead. And you just have to it's okay,
Yeah.
and let it go.
Yeah.
Well, let's sort of switch, because we've been talking a lot about, especially for women. And I really want to get into this, what you've seen, why confidence and authenticity can be blind spots that women aren't recognizing, that there is either a struggle there, or they haven't connected the dots that's going to help them in their leadership journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and again, this goes back to my own experience. I think our own authentic styles are often shoved under the rug a little bit, especially in corporate environments where you and I both came from, and um, we we get used to that, and so we lose our sense of self. We lose our agency in a way. We lose our confidence around who we are, and we can go into a room and pretend. I can do that all day long, but that's acting. I don't
Yeah.
want to be performative when I'm leading. When my role is to lead, I want people to know me. And so the main thing that we have to get past is that we're going to be judged. Okay, we're going to be judged. We're judged when we walk out the door to go to the grocery store. We're judged when we go buy dinner at the restaurant up the street. people pass judgment on us thousands of times a day.
Yeah.
And it's not that we need to develop a thicker skin per se. It's more that we need to just live into who we are and be proud of that,
Yeah.
right?
Be
I
okay with it.
mean, yeah, it's there's nothing wrong with each of us being who we are. One of the things I talk about, especially with my younger clients, is that the most effective leaders are who they are authentically and unapologetically.
Yeah.
Period. They don't try to be somebody that they're not. So, you see people who are one way at work and one way at home. Are we two different people? No, we're not. We're the same person, and it's really impossible to completely separate the two. Can we carve out certain things? Sure. I can close the door to my office at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that I'm going to forget the things that happen throughout the day. But one of the ways that we can be more authentic is to bring that gap a little bit closer together and not try to be two different people in these two different roles. At home, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a cook, I'm a cat servant, all the things, right? At work, I do my thing. And there right now for me, there is no distinction between the two. The cat servant thing happens all the time. I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen one of them walk through the room while we've been recording today. So, it's learning that we don't have to be two different versions of ourselves just because of different contexts. And really being true to who we are, thinking about what is it that I want? What's the agency that I want to take in this particular moment? How do I want to be seen? Am I seen that way? And understanding if other people actually perceive us that way. So there's a lot of work we have to do to get to that level of self-awareness. But once we do, it's magic. It is absolute magic. And these women who have stepped into leading authentically, who are around me now, are wildly successful. They do what they want to do. I have one friend who says, I only want to work 2 days a week. And I said, okay, so what do you need to do to get there? We worked through it. Now she only works 2 days a week, and she is wildly successful. But that is authentically who she is. She wants lots of space to go and ride her bike and to do mountain hiking and all the things, right?
Yeah.
So this is authentically who she is. And for her to be at her best, that's what she needs.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, she's probably maybe she's serving her cat too. So I love that line. I had to put it back in there. So what's one simple step listeners can take today to start leading with more authenticity and confidence? What's one thing that they can take away right now?
Great question. The first thing that I would do is ask myself how I wanted to be perceived. Do I want to be perceived as a leader? Do I want to be perceived as somebody who's confident? And then I would go out and ask the people around me I trust. So my family, my closest friends, the people who are in that inner circle. Is this how I'm showing up? And if I'm not, then that tells me I have work to do. But that's the first thing I would do is I would look at that gap between how I want to be perceived and how I am perceived and get those things closer together.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I love that. I love that. All right. So, as we wind up, is there a question that you wish more women ask themselves when it comes to authentic leadership?
Well, there are probably hundreds of them, Lynn. The one question I would encourage women to ask themselves more frequently is, what do I want?
Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. Not what's expected of me, not what do you want,
or what do I have to get done today, or what do I have to take care of for my family or my at work or my clients or my
cats.
Yeah. And we still have yet to see either my cat or your cats.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I just
Yeah,
keep talking. Cat.
But what do I want? What do I want? And that's going to lead us down the path of forward progress. What do I want?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Brilliant. Susan, thank you so much for sharing Rise with Authenticity, the proven path to confidence and influence. And I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about you and where they can find you and connect with you.
Yeah. So I would love to connect on LinkedIn or on my website, which is susanhoney.com. Please feel free to find me there, and reach out, schedule a consultation, whatever.
Yeah. And all of those links are going to be added below. And I want to thank everyone who joined us so much. This has been such a great conversation. And Susan, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and you gave so much value to our audience. And that one tip, everyone take action on that. Susan, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.